Record to the cloud. Again, this is week 13 of R511 in the spring semester of 2022. It is the third semester teaching this course in a row. I am tired of teaching this course 3 semesters in a row, believe me, but I have had many great guests each semester, 15 weeks in a row of great guests. And during the pandemic, I get to see my friends by bringing people in every week. So I've saved some of the best for last. And so Nantana has agreed to be our guest in week 13, which is really kind of sort of the last guest. She doesn't realize this. Next week, we have IST students, former students coming in as the guests. It's our last external guest. So she's got a back cleanup and summarize the entire field for us because she's worked in corporate settings, she's worked in higher ed settings, she's worked in sort of a military setting now. It's kind of civilian military kind of setting in Defense Acquisition University, the largest university in the country at one point. It may no longer be because there's such these mega universities are springing up now. I'm not sure if it is the biggest anymore, but at one point it definitely was. And so by being in those places, including Northern Virginia Community College, where Joe Biden, the president's wife, works. So she's working in some fancy dancy places. She was a reporter doing documentaries in Bangkok, was on the news. She'd be someone you'd be seeing on the news in Thailand if you went to visit the country. So, you know, this is like having the movie stars their 14th or 13th week of a class in here. So, and not only that, she decided that the life of fame of doing documentaries and filmmaking, reporting wasn't what it's all cracked up to be. She really needed to be doing instructional design because that's where things are happening. That's the field that was really taking off. About 20 years ago when she decided to go to George Washington University and have this major, this master's degree at George Washington, instructional technology, educational technology, curriculum and instructional technology. They don't really know what to title it there at George Mason. They just throw it all out there and they see who's going to show up, what they want us to teach them. We'll teach them all this stuff. So yeah, they have a really great program at George Washington. In fact, the newspaper, get the name of the
George Mason.
George Mason. Okay, not George Washington. George Mason University. Okay, even better. I know more people there, in fact. So George Mason University is just to the near west side of the DC area. So you move into the Virginia side near my sister's house. Actually, it's a growing campus, a lovely campus. I've spoke there once for the Defense Acquisition University conference that they held on the grounds of George Mason University. So we've got a great program now with Joan Kong-Shing, who does language learning right now, Nada DePaul, Brenda Ritlin Bannon. So they have several professors who are really worldwide reputations, including Nada, who was in Bangkok with me when I met Nan.
Yeah.
So Nan, is that enough? So her career has evolved, and it's evolving again. And as you see from the slides I shared with you, so they got a pre-look at them. She's gotten a lot of badges and certificates along the way from ASTD and other places. So we'll talk to her about the need for badges and certificates, and maybe she can start with that. I do have a couple questions written down for you that I didn't share with you. Okay. And one of them has to do with this first slide.
Okay.
You've got a lot of certificates in the past 5 years.
Pandemic.
The pandemic pondering, pandemic production, pandemic, I have a podcasting show, I'm doing all the P words. So tell us about the 3-year, the 6-year, and these are all divisible, these 3, 12, 6. Tell us about the different experiences and tell us why you picked these certificates, these particular ones, and which of these, maybe 1 or 2, would you recommend to others to take? Okay. And which certificates would you not recommend? Okay, so why don't we start with that, Nan?
All right, so let's start with all the certificate that I'm taking here, as you can see, that's so many in the past 2 or 3 years. And when I say pandemic, it's just because of everything is all virtual. And I feel like instead of going to the conference, maybe I should take the workshop instead. And then I get to produce something. And the good that comes with it is just perfect timing, because I signed up for a few courses even before the pandemic hit. And the 2 of them is the Design Virtual Training Certification from ATD. And this one is really helping me, because after the pandemic hit, I would be able to take what I learned and create a workshop, like a lunch and learn 1 or 2 hours hand-on workshop for the faculty who doesn't know how to teach online. So if I'm gonna recommend you, if you wanna take something from ATD, I really highly recommend Designing Virtual Training Certification, because it's one thing that you learn from the textbook. I have the whole big textbook telling you like what type of activity we can use or engage student online, student in the virtual environment, but it's never clicked to me until I have to go there and try to and go through all those activities and be able to like, oh, this is how you do it, and be able to come back and show that to the faculty at DAU. And again, like I say, it's just perfect timing. It's just the time that they really need it at that time, because they don't know how to teach virtually. Another thing that I would recommend would be need assessment certification, and that is long time ago, 2017. But at that time, when I take this certification, it's just clicked to me that we are not, I mean, ISD, are we a person who create a course? In a way, yes, it is, but in a way, we are someone who come in and try to solve the problem, what they have. Sometimes they come to ISD and say, hey, can you create this training? Can you create this workshop? Can you create this e-learning course? We can say yes first, and then try to find out why they're needing it. Because when someone comes to you and they say they need a workshop or training, there's something not going right? Something, the behavior at work, some performance that is not meet their standard, something is, you need to find that out. You have to like dig deeper into it. And sometimes training is not the answer. And I think that is something that resonates to me until today, that training is not everything. Training is not solving the problem that they have in the workplace. It could be something else. It could be attitude. It could be that they don't have the right to do their job. And so that certification is kind of telling me that you need to dig deeper. So that for that certification, the one that I'm probably not going to recommend is digital badges. I think, I don't know if you guys know a lot about right now is kind of a trend that, hey, let's make it like certification and give the badges. We kind of like expose that part of it, but badges mean nothing if you go out, apply for the job, and that badges didn't mean to that organization. And so it's kind of like the idea that it sounds like a good idea, but it's had to mean something for people who come to your course. Another thing to think about, I feel that you can Google or read book and be able to get that concept without going to the class.
Before you go on, you haven't explained your job in Thailand, your job at Virginia Community College, and your job at DAU.
Okay.
But
all right. So yeah.
Before you would do that, you mentioned if you have a problem that's different than the instructional design problem. You have a psychological problem or work environment problem, a cultural problem. Do you try to solve that, or do you talk to management consultants and they address? Do you, in your role, are you asked to address the organizational climate issues, or does someone else deal with that?
you tell them that this is what I find out. It's not the problem of the training or they don't have the knowledge to do their job. It's something else. It's one of the tasks I'm working on. And I said, and what I know is when I interview people on the job, they say, I don't have the right data to work on. And so you just tell your customer that that is the issue. Now they might say, I still need the training. I mean, again, if they are your customer, you work for them, you probably need to create a training for them, but you telling them that this is not going to solve the problem. You need to address the other part of it. I can create you the training to come along with it, but this issue is not going to going away if you don't address the other things. So again, I think some ISD, some consulting might be able to change that behavior as well. But for my responsibility right now, we're not allowed to do other thing else than, create the training and give the suggestion to the customer that what we see.
So the Online Learning Consortium has two conferences, Online Learning Innovate and Online Learning Accelerate. And they have a journal, the Online Learning Journal. And that's often held in Orlando. Or do you go to those conferences for the online learning? They're expensive. I did when I was a keynote, and I did once when I got an award. That's the only two times I can't afford it. Seriously, but I do publish in the journals, and I got one coming out in 2 months, one coming out, last month or March. So I know the people, but it's an expensive organization. It's more for the training people, training departments can afford it. Faculty, we have no budget, or limited.
So ask them to invite you to be the keynote again so we can attend.
Please, please, you can do that. So can you explain your 3 years, 12 years, and 6? What were your skills that was required? What competencies were required of the jobs that you did?
For the 12 years in community college, you're asking? Or you mean
jobs, the 3 years, the 12 years, and the 6 years? What kind of skill days did you have?
So the 3 years is just right after I finished my bachelor degree in Thailand, and I just wanted to do something fun. I guess you're still young, right? And you say, let me go to the broadcasting. Let me work in the television industry. What I learned from that is it's the type of education, but it's just broadcast to everyone. And I can't get the concept of, okay, how you edit the video, how you record, or how can you use the camera work, how to write a script and things like that. So I just, at that time, you're still young, you still try to find what you like, right? I have to say it's a fun job, but it's require a lot of time. Sometimes you have to go to work at night and then come home until 2 or 3 in the morning, and your mom asking you where have you been, thing like that. But that is the 3 years.
Okay. Before you go to the 12 years, where did you get your undergraduate in Thailand? What university?
Chulalongkorn University.
The best one, the Pink University. So they have
they say they're the best.
They are the best. They have an agreement with IU, so that's why I have to say they're the best.
Okay.
We have a global gateway in Bangkok. We have global gateways in Berlin, Bangkok, Mexico City, and Beijing. We have 4 global gateways, and the one in Southeast Asia is in Bangkok. I think UNESCO has one of their headquarters in Bangkok too. So, but yeah, Chulalongkorn, you wear pink there because it's the Pink University. So
yes, they wear pink. Pink is the color of our university. But maybe we should connect with DAU too.
Yeah, definitely. I have spoken a couple of times, including the last time I was there. We'll talk. I have contacts there.
Okay.
So the 12 years, tell them what kind of competencies. Did you move over 12 years? Did you get moved up, or did you always have the same job over 12 years?
So I was in the higher ed for 12 years. It's a really long time. I have a really good time. Higher ed and the training or corporate university, they are different because they have the different goal. Again, I mean, Northern Virginia Community College, they have the second largest community college in the country. I think there still is. So we have a lot of students taking online. So at Nova, at my department at that time, we focusing on the online course, pure online course. So there's no face-to-face, there's no hybrid, it's no virtual learning component with that. So that's when I learned like how can you design a course when you don't really, face-to-face or get the chance to like talk to your student. It's been, I mean, right now, I think at that time, one thing that I miss is I want to try the different model, like hybrid, blended classroom. And so that's when I feel like I need to go somewhere else. And that's when I changed my direction to DAU. In a way, DAU is not that much different to the higher ed because a lot of courses that they teach there is more like a foundation courses. And it's not really target. If you look at some of the corporate training, it's more target into the thing that they have to do on the job, right? And it's more like it's not a requirement. Anyways, so again, that's why I changed my direction into going to DAU. I think I should talk more about DAU. So let me go here. And so this slide is showing you like what type of courses that we're offering and who is our customer or student who come into the class. You have the slide, then you can take a look at that later. But if you have any question about the student who come in or the classes that we have in here, you can feel free to ask. If not, I can go to the next slide.
You actually have courses on how to write grants?
Yeah. But it's more like for contracting.
Yeah, okay. Interesting. So do you consider yourself a military organization or a civilian organization or both?
Would be more for both, Kirk, but actually all we do is more like acquisition, right? It's not like we training people how to go and use the weapon and things like that.
Right.
It would be more like everything logistic, how to you do the contracting, how to do cost estimate. If you're gonna buy a tank, what do you need to consider type of thing like that. So it would be more civilian that come to the class than the military, but of course they come from all of DoD organization.
So what percentage would you say today are face-to-face classes, or on average over the last couple of years versus hybrid ed versus fully online?
You mean in the past couple of years?
Yeah, maybe in over you've been there for how long now? 6
years.
Yeah, so over the 6 years, what would you say would be the percentages of each?
Okay, so when I first joined DAU 2016, majority of the class is we call it Instructor-Led Training, which is the in-class, in-person. Students have to fly all over the US to come on site to go to the class. And most of the format they're doing is like 5-day, really intense class. You go in 8-hour a day, a lot of group work, case study and things like that. But this nonstop because they fly all over the place and you don't want to waste their time, right? They're already off. So I would say 90% is ILT. But after the pandemic hit, that when everything have to turn to virtual instructor-led training, everything. Otherwise, you cannot offer the class because you cannot go on site. And actually, before the COVID, we try to push the virtual learning there. We try to push blended learning. We want instructor to try the virtual using the WebEx, but it's just a lot of resistance at that time. And I feel like the pandemic have helped us that now you have to teach online. Now you have to learn how to use tools and try to make the best out of it. So right now I try to push the blended learning because when we call it ship and lift. And so when the pandemic hit, everything they teach in the ILT, they put that into the real class. So all the slides, all the material that designed for the in-class, in-person is moved to the online, and it's just really dry, it's really boring. But that is the best we can do, right? We just teach them how to use the tool and then just have to go with it to teach the class. And then after 2 or 3 months, when they come like used to the tools, how to use presentation and things like that, we try to push that, hey, let's see how you engage your student in the virtual environment. And then now we at the phase where let's do the blended learning. Don't have the student to come 8 hours a day, it's just too much. It have to be like a small chunk, have students go out asynchronously, read the material on their own, control their own learning, come back and do discussion in the classroom instead. So right now, like say, probably 30% that we be able to push to the blended learning, we try to push more. But it's still the culture change too. It's still that, again, the lecture based and the facilitation style is still really hard for a lot of people to change.
Right. Well, you can go to the next slide. I think those are the numbers we needed. So
I don't know if this is too small, but it's like you can see that underneath here is a lot of ISD here. They are contractor. So we changed the model that instead of we contract out and have people come in and build a course for us, we bring in the contractor in and then they do the development in-house. So as you can see that that's the type of the ISD, the graphic designer that come in and help us build the course in-house.
so those are the skills that you need in the field to do
From
experience. So would you say a heavy amount of theory is needed to be competent in you, or is it more learning on the job of what techniques and activities work?
Well, you have to know the theory, right? Before you can pick what tools you want to use or how you want to engage your student. I would say yes, we looking for something that people who can work on the tools for us, and then actually the government ISD is the one who can like monitor them and see that and make sure that is meet the quality or the standard, or have all the right theory.
Okay, you can go into the next slide. I think we've got that. So the next one has some things we haven't talked about.
So
here.
this slide is, I just want to like many things that we do at DAU, and I feel like I let you guys pick what you interested in hearing more about it.
So who has something of these 6 topics on the board here, or 7 topics? Which one should she elaborate on? Scott, Sunmei, Linda, who would like to jump in there? Which topic?
Sure.
Sorry.
Yeah,
Go ahead, Linda.
Sorry, Scott. I was interested in how you handle diversity, equity, and inclusion in your course design.
This is really new hot thing that is coming. We just start doing that right now. We start to have the team coming in and take a look at what type of policy that we should put in place. Right now, what we do is just bring the awareness. We have a lot of webinar talking about that. This is type of e-learning. You can look at one course and use count on the character on the slide is like 80% white male. What is wrong with this, right? I mean, thinking about adding more diversity, people with different race, people with different sex, people with disability on the wheelchair and things like that. And one thing that we notice is sometimes when you have the woman character on our e-learning, sometimes it's portrayed as someone who like serving secretary or thing like that. And so that is something that we try to have the conversation at DAU that, hey, this mindset needs to be changed. It's not like women is the role that you think that is like second class, or the woman can be the one who wearing suit and be the boss too. I mean, why when you have the business owner, you see the character as a man most of the time. And so those things is right now, as I say, we are aware of that and we try to make other people aware. The policy, we still need, we're still building the team to come up with a policy. We don't have that in place yet, but it's coming. And it's something that, yeah, go ahead.
So Scott had a question, but Dadzi's got his hands up. So we'll go to Dadzi next. Dadzi?
Yes, thank you very much for the presentation. So I was interested in adaptive learning and AI, and I would like to hear your thoughts about that topic. Thank you.
Can you tell me one more time which topic you're talking about?
Adaptive learning and
adaptive learning. Okay. So this is this is something I have the blank slide here. And the reason is because of we are exploring this for like 2-3 years. And right now, the only thing that come out in place is so basic, like take the pre-test. And if you pass the pre-test, you don't have to take that online class type of thing. But the AI, we have the contract with other vendor outside to create a course that would calculate if student or if the user get the answer wrong, the AI would be able to know that what the next question they should ask. If they get it right, it skips some of the content that they have to review, and then it's have the new knowledge that is built from the question. So the AI can't like do all the calculation behind the scene. It's still really new, and it's still something that we try to explore more about it.
Scott.
Yeah, I had just would like an example of different applications of ADDIE versus the successive approximation model, like in your kind of daily role.
Yeah.
So I think you said, is there a difference between ADDIE and successive approximation or any other instructional design models? Yeah, what do you use there?
It's funny because I'm looking at this too, and I feel like we didn't, to be honest, like ADDIE is something that everyone say, don't use ADDIE, like this is not working. But actually, if you're thinking about the waterfall, I agree that is, I don't like that when you're done with analysis, when you're done with design, and when you go into development, you feel like, no, I cannot change the design because it's already done. But sometimes when you have to create something, you know it at that time that it's not working. You should be able to go back and make change on the design document. And ADDIE, if you stick with it, like really thinking that no, is after one done, the other one you have to move on. I think it's not right. And we try to make adjustment to it, but we not really go to SAM, fully SAM either. Because SAM in a way that they kind of like skip the analysis phase and they go into like, let's build a prototype. Let's see that if the prototype work, going out, evaluate, have the user use it and come back and redesign again. And so right now what we do is the mix of the two. I would say we do some quick analysis. We do the design, but we say, hey, the design is flexible. We can go back and change it anytime. We might decide that, okay, we're gonna go this route, but when we go into the development phase, we might be able to step back and say, this is not working, we need to change. And also we try to have people review after you're done with each module. You have other SME come in and review the course. Sometimes if you're lucky, you can have the students giving your feedback as well. And so in a way that is not fully SAM, it's not fully added, but it's mixed between these two.
So Nan, you skipped the slide which talked about what projects you're working on. You want to go back to the slide of what projects you're working on? Because I don't think you mentioned that.
Okay,
At least it's in my handout.
oh, here. Well,
Yeah, that's the one. Yeah, yeah.
The project I'm working on, of course, it's like design courses, right? The virtual classes, the online classes. And now we are trying to do something which is so normal for you guys, that you're doing a lot of asynchronous online classes with a few of the synchronous, or the instructor come in and maybe have the office hour and things like that. And so that is something new for us. It's not new for you guys, but it's new for us that we're gonna try it out. It's gonna be like 2 months long, which is usually if you say, you're gonna decide 2 months long courses, people at DAU would be like, no, it's too long. They want like a shorter class, but in a way it's the same amount of hour the student need to put in, the same amount of hour that the faculty need to put in. It's just the mindset of it's longer. But we want to make it more like a spaced learning, and students have time to digest what they learn.
So at DAU, do they offer degrees or just certificates? Do they actually have?
No
Okay.
degree.
No degrees. So it's like employees in the workforce coming for retooling and upskilling and reskilling kinds of things.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And certificate is what make people come. Is sometimes certification matter for you, for your promotion, for you to be able to do the different type of job. And so people come in to get the different certification just because of that.
Okay. So forward up 2 slides ahead to instructor-led training versus online training. We've been talking about this already. I think that's the one.
So let me go down a little bit here. I have here is called Asset Development Office Hour. What I'm doing is bi-weekly, I have like more like a webinar, but it's bring in people who are doing asset development, the faculty and everyone to come in and talk about the topic for that week. And it's been going really well. People would be able to come in and have the conversation with us. So it's more like some support around not only that you decide a course for them, but you also have some support and some consultant on the side for them as well. And I know that Kirk was asking me, like, what type of workshop do you present to your faculty? And one thing that I'm working on it right now is how to use MS Teams to engage your student in the virtual environment. Because sometimes you can be a really good instructor, but you don't know tools. You know, something like this is come hand in hand. 508 workshop. This one is also part of the diversity and inclusion because of the accessibility, especially in the government training. All the material have to meet 508 compliance, really strict compared to the higher ed that I was in. Of course, design blended training, since I'm pushing that I want the virtual classroom to be blended design. The workshop help and make them understand why. For coaching and mentoring program, this is something that I want to ask you guys too. Let's just say you create a workshop your faculty come into your class, right? To your hand-on workshop, and they say, great, I'd be able to do X, Y, and Z. I would be able to use the whiteboard and the pool questions and things like that. But then after the class, we check in with them and they didn't implement what they learned from the class. What would you do?
What would you do? That's our challenge for you tonight. Anyone have a stab at this? You might want to state it again.
So you create a workshop. It's a great workshop, great success. Yeah, right. Like the Kirkpatrick level 1, great. Number 2, great. Now you go back to number 3. You want to see if they implemented, if their behavior will change. But it didn't change. What would you do? Or how can you change your workshop to make it that for them to do it? I mean, I'm still struggling with this. I think I'm thinking about some solution, but I want to throw out there for you guys.
So Linda, you want to take a stab at that?
Yeah, I was gonna say, in your work, if you do a workshop, could you have role playing? Where you could actually have some sort of a scenario and have them practice coaching or mentoring?
We have them do the breakout section, and they have to come up with the activity using the certain tool. For example, if I try to teach them to use whiteboard, they go out and be with their peer and come up with the activity. They have to come back and demo that to the class. So they have the chance to practice it, have a chance to think about that, what they can do.
So these are virtual workshops that you're doing then too? Yeah. Well, I still think if you set up some sort of a scenario, where you would maybe have, or role playing where you'd have one person be the student and the other person be the instructor, and, have them do a role play, because both of them would learn from that, right? The person who's the student would be able to give feedback on the coaching. And then the person coaching or mentoring would, learn from the experience. But I don't know. I think I just feel, I mean, you're running the workshop, so I know you have a better idea of how things are working in breakout rooms. But I just, it was just kind of thinking that would be, one way that you could get people to actually interact and actually try. Once they try and they understand how to do it, they might be able to, what's the word I'm thinking of? Transfer that to their actual class, virtual class.
So
Okay.
does anyone else have a solution?
So I have a question. So did that workshop teach how to use whiteboard for the faculty's classroom? Is that correct?
Yeah.
So you see that actually after the workshop, so the faculty students didn't use whiteboard a lot. That's the problem, you think?
Mm-hmm.
So maybe I think that you can give a really detailed or clear guideline how to use whiteboard. That's because from my experience, usually attending the workshops, we understand, what is that? And if there are really good, point to use that, but actually in real, environment, they don't know how to implement that, concept into the practice. So usually maybe you can share a real example how to use whiteboard for some, classes, maybe one of the classes, maybe that would be great, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. And I think that is one of our solution to that. We need to create some sort of the online resources, because they come in one class workshop, they might not click to them and they feel that they might need more support. That would be one solution. And for Linda, when you're talking about, hey, do the role play, I think that's a great idea too. Especially if you I think you kind of thinking that the coaching mentoring workshop. I guess that's what you're going for. And I think that one is like, I went to the ATD coaching certification, and that's what exactly they want us, they have us do like the whole week to do the role play. One thing I have problem with is after I'm done with the workshop, even though I grab the idea, if I don't have someone to practice after that, I forget about all the techniques. So I'm thinking maybe is need to have some support after that, is have to have maybe the community, maybe we have to attach them with some mentor, right? Or maybe we pair them up with someone. And so they take accountability between the two. Again, this is something that is still mulling through it. I'm thinking about maybe the observation idea that people can sign up and say, hey, I want to go observe Kirk class because I know that he's a good facilitator. So it's something, and I see the hand up.
Oh, yeah, that was me. I thought of a possible solution, but I mean, you can finish your thought and then, move.
So yeah, I'm done. So that's what I'm thinking, but go ahead, tell us what you thought.
So what I was thinking, especially when Sume was talking, was one of the things that has worked both on me as a student as well as a teacher is taking away their tools. And I know that sounds like really draconic a little bit, but if that's the only tool, if the whiteboard is the only tool that they have to use to make their point in terms of whatever the assignment is or whatever the project is, then maybe that will force them to learn it and become acclimated with using it as a tool for teaching or learning.
So you say take away other tools and so make them like trying and use this.
I'm wondering, and Amita has her hand up, but I'm wondering first, how much money do you have to spend on each course in development? That also being a factor. And how many people are being trained? That also is a factor. And I'm thinking that if there's money, if there's people, that you could create templates for mini simulations, cheap simulations, not expansive or fancy or whatever, just kind of with pictures and text and all, maybe some brief video component if there is somebody to do that. And those might be replicable, of course, the workshops in some ways, the templates that could be created because role play is getting into the real world somewhat. And so are simulations, so are animations, so are VR displays or activities. So how rich and how much fidelity is possible given the limitations of your budget, right? And given the limitations of the expectations of people taking the course that aren't expecting a real elaborate, instructional design. They're just there for their 2-hour workshop or 4-hour or 8-hour workshop, and they're going to go on to their work after this and get their certificates,
right,
and they're just happy to be on their way. But so I think each of the solutions that we've heard from Linda and from Priska and others are equally valuable, but it depends on what your audience is, and it depends on the scale of the audience, and the expectations depends on the budget. So before we go to Amita, you want to explain what kind of budget you have?
Well, for the in-house professional development, we don't have that much budget. It's usually created in-house. But I trickle by the simulation idea because a lot of classes that is not professional development, but other courses that I'm working on for customer outside the AU, we have a lot of budget. And so simulation is something that we do a lot and students love it. And they feel the more that you can make it real, the better, right? Because they feel that, hey, it's similar to what I'm doing on the job, but I'd be able to do it wrong to see how that happened, how the effect would be. And so
so I'm thinking of a recursive loop where one goes through and the levels of authenticity might increase or decrease as you go through. Maybe increases if they haven't mastered the skill, you have something more rich and more high fidelity a simple role play you try first, or a simple reflective activity you try first. And if that doesn't work, you move into higher and more rich media elements that you might engage them in. I'm just throwing that out there.
Yeah, and simulation actually is great. After you have students go through those things, you have them come back in the classroom and have discussion. That is even make it better.
There too. And you talked about creating a community in your with even mentors and assigned critical friends or something like that too. So you can have a multi-pronged approach that could solve this problem or maybe lower the issue that you're facing. Question Omida, but Omida I think had her hand up first. So Omida, go ahead, Omida.
So my feedback would be also close to others. I also had workshops here at IU, even though it was very interesting, you know, people attend, and then they still struggle because it's hard to visualize, sometimes implement things, come up with activities. So the best solution and suggestion was peer observation and peer feedback. Like there are some people who are always, you know, motivated and want to try something new. So the others would go to that class, observe it, and then once they convinced that it works for others and how is that helpful and see others' achievements, then they get excited. And the best way is to adopt something, like once they see their peers doing something, they start doing same thing. So that was the most effective way to solve the issue in our case.
I really like that. Create a superstar and have them be the champion. But I really like that. And I feel that that can be something that I attach to have people observe them too, right? I know I identify the faculty who doing those things, and we have other people come in and see the class.
And even the superstar wants some kind of feedback. They also appreciate it. So peer feedback works well, I think.
Yeah, that's great.
So Amita knows about that because she is the superstar. She's been in my classes for the last almost 10 years now. Almost 10, Amita, I think it is. So maybe it started in 2013, I think maybe, or
14.
14, yeah, so it's getting close. And she's not even in this class and she's showing up. So that
thank you so much for all of your suggestion. I would put that in, and I think everything is really, I really appreciate that. Something that outside the box from Prisha to like, hey, take away the other two and see if they're gonna do it. And so I appreciate all the feedback you guys give it to me today. And I know that it's 5 minutes to 8. So no, I don't want to go over your time at all.
Well, we didn't start with you till quarter after 10. We have about 10 minutes left, and I know you have a few slides left, but why don't you, so I know who's all here, can you hit the stop sharing for a few minutes anyhow, so we can see everybody that's here, and then we know Dazi has a question for you. So you want to jump in here, Dazi?
Yes, I start first with a tip. When she was looking for some solutions, I was thinking about tapping into the interest of the students actually. So, and try to build the projects around their interest. So that way they can be really involved in the work, and that they not only involved, but that involvement will come from the interest they have first. That's one thing. Also, it makes me think about authentic learning. So to connect the project to the reality, and the reality they like. So having it that way will ultimately get them involved and interested in using the tools as well.
Yep. Have them like thinking about in your class, so everyone have to create the activity for me, and it's not a group work that you just create as a group. I'm thinking that maybe if I want to make it connection to what they're doing, that could be another way too.
Anyone else before she goes back? She has a few slides left to show us.
I think we cover a lot.
Well, there were a couple, I think maybe. That
I guess another one, if you want me to talk about, is probably the micro learning, but
yeah,
let me hear from you guys. Actually, it's really interesting to hear from other people then.
yeah, the blended learning, micro learning asset.
Mhm.
You know, you have that.
So Kirk was asking me like, what is hot new that you guys doing? And one thing that we try to move toward is micro learning. And so in the past at DAU, easily you can go to the OLT that is, you have to spend about 40 hours. It's a lot, 40 hours to finish that class OLT. It's crazy. And so now we try to push like, if it's gonna be the asset, you want students to be able to get the concept of it, make it small, make it focusing on just one thing, right? One or two things. And it's easier for people to come in and say, oh, it's just like you go to YouTube video and try to install something and you just like, okay, I just need that. And it's in time of need, you can just go there and be able to perform your job just to use that micro learning asset type thing.
So we have a student dissertating on Thursday, studying
Mhm.
micro learning and badging. I can send you the link and you can
Oh.
attend. She actually started this study a long time ago. She's got basically to the end of the semester to finish. She got an extension a couple months. So yeah, she's had to update with all the new stuff that's happened in the 8 years since she started the study. I think she started 7 or 8 years ago or whenever it was. So there's a lot been going on in the micro-credential field, and she was one of the first. So they're looking at faculty who are adjunct instructors mostly, or lecturers at IUPUI in Indianapolis, and the faculty development program. They're giving them badges for going through faculty development, how to teach, you know, for diversity, equity, and inclusion, for, you know, diverse populations that they have there at IUPUI, and other things, you know, how to teach blended, hybrid. And so, yeah, that's the topic of Thursday.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, I can send you the dissertation if you
Yeah, I would be interested to see that.
just read it. So yeah, it's been interesting times. Yeah. So anyone else want to jump in here with some comments or questions? I see you have Microsoft Teams. That's something also IU is moving towards using Teams. Is that a thing for
Yeah,
DAU?
so
Is using Teams?
Yeah, we switched from Blackboard and WebEx to MS Teams now. And if you looking to switch your career to government, that is what you're gonna face to learn the MS Team environment. It's just different. Not as good as I don't feel that is built it for to be course management system if you compare to other tools, but is do a pretty good job on having people collaborate.
What about Zoom? Do you use Zoom in the government, or you used to go to Teams?
We use it here and there, but some people have the license, but it's not, Teams is the one that they want us to use. And so again, all the classes would be hosted in Team, all the meeting would be in Teams, because they want everything to be in one environment, all the recording and everything, files that you share.
So I see you using Storyline. A few years back, I had the vice president of Storyline, Articulate, come in and talk to the students. We
Oh,
got a
really?
license here. Yeah, I had met him at a conference in London. So yeah, so is it the main, so what are the main suite of tools that you rely on to do course development now?
To be honest, I don't know if anyone like into Articulate. They have the product called Rise Articulate, which is more like a web-based real type of thing that is really easy to create. And so at DAU right now, we kind of like give the license to the faculty as well, so they can produce their own work. of course, it's have to come to the ISD and work together, but it is the tool, the RISE, articulate RISE is type of the tool that right now we use it a lot, Kirk. Storyline is good and better, it can do a better job, but it's more complex for faculty to learn. And
So are you supervising people there, or are you in charge of a team development, or is it all everyone at the same level and we all work as a team?
So right now, as I showed the first chart, that we have a lot of contractor ISD come in to work with us. So the government ISD would work more as a mentor, a coaching. We might tap into the development here and there, but they are the one who doing the heavy lifting. But we are the one, the government ISD is the one who makes sure that things that go into the right direction. And so in a way, I don't know if we're not direct supervisor, but they're working under our mentoring. Let's put it this way.
Yeah. So are there success stories that, surprisingly been things you designed or developed that you've been surprised they've been so successful, and what were they?
If I say that, it's going to be really funny for you guys, because you guys say you've been doing that for a long time. It is the blended classroom that we have it for 1 month long. So again, like I say, at DAU, the class always short. They always want to have the short class, 5 day, 3 day, 2 days. And it's just intense learning the whole day. We try with one of the contracting certification that would be 1 month long, and student majority of time they have to learn the material on their own, and they come into the classes for discussion once a week. And we have the office hour attached almost every day, like twice a week. And so student can come in and talk to the professor. But it's surprisingly successful, because students say they really like this model, because it's not like we push everything down their throat like in 5 days. Is allow them to be able to control their own learning, and if they have to do an assignment, they can choose the time that when they're going to submit the assignment. And again, I feel that it's just a model that university or the university are using, but it is new for us.
So that's a success. What would you say are still challenges for you there? What are the types of things that are really, really difficult to do?
And at the same time, it's still challenging, because we're still changing the mindset, right, for people who still feel that the class is supposed to be short and it should not be like in the long period of time. It's still not catching on yet, Kirk. We're still pushing that. But one thing that, if you ask me, one of the challenge that we have is because of our customers come from many different agency. Sometimes they do things in a different way. Like Navy might do it this way, Army do it this way. How can you teach them in the same class?
So how would so next 2 weeks we're in jobs. The next 2 weeks are focused. How would my students find out about jobs at the DAU? And do you have jobs?
USA job, usajob.gov. That's what you find out about the job, that posting. You can see a lot of ISD position posted there from the different agency.
Would you recommend?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. So can people contact you? Could my students contact you, and would you be able to suggest a job or a way of courses that might help them get trained, specific things that would help them get qualified to do what you do?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, contact me. I think, Kirk, you have my...
I put your Gmail in the email to all of them. It's in your LinkedIn page. So yeah. So I put what's in your LinkedIn for everybody.
Yep.
Yeah. So if you're interested, if anyone's watching the recording later on, they can write to Nan. So I have one more question I'm going to open up to everyone. Does the DAU pay for tuition for student tuition?
$5,000 per semester, I think. I mean, of per 6 months.
So that's a big
1,000.
perk there. Yeah, that's a huge perk. And you know, it's a stable, working in the DAU is very stable. You don't have to worry about the ups and downs of the economy too much. The jobs will still most of the time be there. So I want to ask, given all that they would pay for you, when are you going to enter or try to enter our EDD program and be, you know, no, you don't have to answer that question.
I'm interested.
So you all can convince her. How many, who's an EDD student in here? Anyone? So Sunme is, Omida is, who else is in there? Okay, Linda is, okay, great. So you have 3 people in here who can advise you. Yeah.
Wow.
Anyone want to advise Nan about our EDD while we're chatting here? Sunme, why don't you tell her all about it?
Pardon? So what do you mean? So do I talk about EDD program? My reflection?
You can write her an email later.
I like it actually. Yeah. Actually, the quality of EDD, yeah, it's wonderful. That's because I thought that before joining this program, it was online, right?
Mhm.
So I just expected it's exactly similar to the online courses that I took before, right? But after joining, I feel like just to doctoral student, just like, yeah, that's because we studied together. Actually, faculties are same, you know, it's really great. Yeah, quality. Even I have a lot of, you know, PhD students, even if, you know, far away, but we work together, you know, we met, yeah, the student in the same class, and then we work together in the same group.
Mhm.
Right, and then we can talk over the discussion board. So I think that it worked greatly. So actually I recommend this program one of my colleagues. That's because he graduated from graduate school master degree recently.
Mhm.
So he is looking for the doctoral degree. So I highly recommend. Yeah.
But Sunme's at Stanford,
Yes.
and doing some great stuff there with mobile applications. And she just took her qualifying exam. So she can say that because she passed her comprehensive exam last week, and she's waiting to hear on the rest of the exam. So
Right.
the hard
Thank
part's
you.
done.
Thank you so much.
I just had to throw that out, Nan. Anyone else has a question for Nan or a comment before we end tonight? Omida.
Well, it's not going to be enough, I guess, time-wise, but I'm really interested in your documentary production experience.
It's a short video. I can give you a short. It's a short documentary for, at that time, that our target audience is teens. And so it's 10-minute documentary focusing on a different type of topic, culture life. For example, there's one time we doing something about the mecha, the Japanese cartoon mecha, and the content of it, which I don't know, you might read, you might familiar with those things, right? I mean, it's have different content, violent and things like that. The other time we probably do something more like reading for the blind, how to be the volunteer to read for the blind and things like that. And so it's a really interesting time. At that time, to work there, I have to do everything, have to do the research, looking for the topic. I want to present, go out, interview, make the connection, calling people, get the camera crew, come back and do the editing. So from start to finish, it's pretty fun.
Thank you.
I see Scott, hands up.
Yeah, I actually had a question. So my wife is first generation Thai, and she has dual citizenship. And I've worked abroad in the past, and I was just wondering, do you know, like, is there a strong demand for instructional design in Thailand? Like, are you in contact with anybody at, you know, your old universities or anything like that?
Yeah, I know that this one time when I go back to Thailand, and at some point I feel like, should I go back and to Thailand? And so I explore that option a little bit. So there are departments that teach instructional design in Thailand. Now, if you ask me that if there's a need of it, Thailand usually 10 years behind US. So for sure that if she interested to getting the job in Thailand, I'm sure that she would be able to get a job that there, especially in the university, because of right now, everything also virtually. Student in the college, same thing as here, when the COVID hit, everything had to be virtual. And I'm sure that there would be a need for the ISD.
Yeah, well, she's bilingual, has an HR degree, so we're just, kind of exploring our options stuff. So that was really nice.
Sounds good. So Adasi has a question.
Yes, I'm a little bit curious to know a little bit about the Kirkpatrick's 4 levels of training evaluation, your experience with that. So I was a little bit curious to know your experience with that.
Kirkpatrick, we have the contract. We have the contract with Kirkpatrick, which is the son of, and they come in and they give us the workshop like a couple times a year, and a lot of people taking the class. However, if you ask me, are we doing the level 3 and 4? And actually that is one of the questions I have it on my sheet, like to ask you guys, like, how can you go back and evaluate the level 3 and level 4? We try to think that, hey, let's go back to the supervisor and see if the behavior change so we can measurement the level 3. But it's still 3 and 4 is for us is really, really difficult. I think if you work on some company that you can probably see the data that if people didn't do something right, and this is the 30% of them, you want to increase whatever, how many percent, you can go back and evaluate that much easier. But in our environment, when we have like Navy, Air Force, Army and different agency to it, it's almost impossible for us to go back and evaluate them that way. I mean, the best thing we do is after 6 months, we go back and talk to their supervisor. But I don't feel that that is doing the justice for the level 3 and 4. What do you think?
Oh, thank you. Thank you. A little bit new to me. I heard about it. I've never had a practical experience with that model of training evaluation. So that's the reason why I wanted.
But but when you go out there, and if you be able to kind of like get the data upfront and have the agreement with your customer that what you want to see change, you would be able to reach the 3 and 4.
Excellent. Thank you very much.
Okay, so Xiaoying, you want to have the last, she's my TA along with Sume's. Do you want to have the last comment, Xiaoying? You haven't spoken tonight.
Yes, I plan to ask a question. I noticed that there is one of your slides mentioned the areas of expertise and the list of the skills. I am curious about one of the skills, and graphic arts. Is it the same as the graphic design?
Mm-hmm.
And what's the degree of this aspect in our career?
Graphic designer, you're asking?
Yes.
Graphic designer, actually, to be honest, I feel like to be a good ISD, having the graphic design background is pretty helpful. I don't have direct experience having a degree, but I go out and look at all the example out there a lot, and then I try to follow the trend of what is the trend for this year, what the color people use, what type of graphic, what type of icon they're using nowadays. And you can see the trend that have changed in the past 10, 15 years. Asking me, if you are working in the company that they have graphic designer, you can create a storyboard or wireframe and tell them that this is what I want. And you can attach with the example that you see out there. It's like, I want it to look like this. I want it to be more like a picture realistic with the cartoon light. I want the comic style, thing like that. You can tell the graphic designer to create that for you. But if you go to some of the places where you are doing everything from start to finish, you have to do the graphic as well, then that when I would say that you probably have to take the classes on Photoshop, Illustrator, and things like that. Especially the video is also really hard. I would say to know how to edit video, how to make sure the audio work well, how to interview people and make sure that the audio is great, the visual is good, thing like that would come in and help you a lot with your job. So again, graphic is really important. You don't have to be able to do it if you have the team to do that for you. Video also, knowing the foundation, how to make good video. Again, if you have the team to do it. As ISD, what you need to do is be able to communicate what you want to the developer.
So Xiaoying, that's a great question, but it wasn't the right question. Xiaoying, you didn't ask the right question.
What is the question?
You didn't ask the right question. The right question is, what's the name of your dog and what kind of dog is it? What kind of dog and how old is the dog? And can you train this dog using instructional design methods in the ADDIE model, or what model are you using to train this dog?
She's really helpful in the pandemic because she's my cubicle mate. You know, she's like right here with me the whole time. And when you stretch out with whatever happening, you can just petting your dog and then everything is all going away.
Oh, like Oliver and me going running every day during the pandemic. So yeah. Yeah, everyone liked seeing Oliver. They didn't care about me, but they wanted to see him. Today, in fact, on the trail, someone stopped on the trail and says, "Where's Oliver?" Literally, a business professor. That's what he wanted to know. It's got, yeah. So yeah, what's the dog's name? What?
Muffin.
Okay. And what kind of dog is Muffin and how old?
She's a Cocker Spaniel, but I think she's mixed with Poodle as well.
Yeah.
So, but she have more of Cocker Spaniel than Poodle. She's 11. I got her from the shelter. I fostered her first and we fall in love and we just like foster fell.
Foster a dog. No, so Oliver's a cockapoo too. So that's a cockapoo, Cocker Spaniel Poodle. My first dog in grad school was a Cocker Spaniel too. So yeah, I'm a partial Cocker Spaniel. So you know, we should thank Nan for staying extra and you can visit her if you're in the DC or Virginia area, and she could give you some advices about the field. There's lots of people who have graduated from our program in the DC area.
Really?
In fact, I've had a meetup last time, actually. I think you couldn't make it, but yeah, I had a meetup. I was on the way to the UK. I had a 5-hour layover. So all these people came for a happy hour, 5-hour happy hour. So we'll do that sometime, Nan. And Sunmei says, I want to go too. So, you know, so yeah, if there's ever a conference again in DC, we'll make sure to go and hang out with Nan. Thanks again for all your time and all your advices and examples and everything. So everyone give her a round of applause.
Thank you so much. And feel free to reach out to me if you have any questions you want to ask on the side. I'm happy to chat with you guys.
So I'm going to stop the recording. We can all wave one last wave before I stop the recording here. And it is going